I'm Joanne from Huckleberry Fabrics Inc. in Comox BC. We are filming today a demo for all you folks. We're standing outside my sewing room, and just to show you, all my Halloween quilts, or most of them, are out on the railing because it's the season. Oh, we have a little guest. It's not about the dog, it's about me. Come on into my sewing room. We are videotaping in front of a live studio audience of one, Mike, the cameraman. So today we are showing you the Creative Grids Facemask template. And this does 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. And I wear medium, and my husband wears a large. Of course he does. Okay, so one of the first things you do is you're going to pick your fabric, a lining, and a front. It's nice to have reversible too, depending on the season. I'll show you a few samples after. This would be my front, and I want to make sure that if this is directional, that it's the right direction on this side. If you just cut it off the bolt and leave it, it will be. So if you do one and then turn it, you won't be. So here we have a straight grain line, and that's gonna line up with the straight grain, which we can tell it's the least stretchiest. And we're just gonna, I'm gonna move this out, cut a shape. So I'm just gonna go along. This is a large, okay? And then I'm gonna do this along here. I'm on my rotating mat, so that's going to help me a little bit. So I'm going to just go along here, rotate my mat again, and I'm going to go along here. So I have cut 2 masks out, except for a little bit there. So that's my front, right? We're going to leave that. Now, that's for a large. If I was doing a medium, I'm actually going to straighten out this edge. Just take one of my rulers. And then I'm just going to do this straight edge here. So I want a straight edge at the bottom there. This just goes on the floor. And I want a straight edge on the corner. And that's so I can line up these here. You can see the medium is here, the lines, and then the small. So if I want to do a small, I'm going to line it up here on the dotted line, the small dotted line. If I want a medium, I'm going to line it up on the darker or larger dotted line. So that's my medium. A kid would probably take a small, depending on the age of the kid. Okay, and then I'm just gonna move my mat. This is where your rotating mat comes in very handy. There. Okay, so that would be my medium. Now you can tell the size difference when you do this. I'm actually gonna flip this so you can see the comparison. So it's actually the same curve. It goes a little longer here. So I didn't cut my elastic any longer for the large than I did for the medium because the large is already accounted for there. Okay, so you want to cut out 2 pieces for the front and then 2 pieces for the lining. Now I find if you have more fabric, it's not directional, you can actually, you know, I can't get another one out of here. There's my fold, but I can certainly move this and do this. I still have a grain. It's not a straight grain, it's a cross grain, a little stretchier, but it's not on the bias. So I could cut out another lining right there or front, okay? As long as it's not directional. If this was directional, of course, all the stuff would be sideways. Okay. So let's move over to my sewing machine. I've already have some cut out and prepped. What you're gonna do is you're gonna sew the lining together. So say this is the lining. I would sew this together. So I just do, we're going to flip the wrong sides together. On the solids it doesn't matter, so I just leave. But I'm going to sew 1/4 inch along there and 1/4 inch along the lining. And we can just do that quickly. I already have my number 97 put on. So once you have this done for the lining, and got my little scissors here, and the front, you just want to go along and clip the edges, the little curve here, and that's just going to make it sit flatter. So these are my Henkel 4-inch scissors, nice sharp tip for doing this type of thing, and yes, we do carry these. Now I want to iron these on my ironing board, obviously. And we want them to all go in one direction. So I find we're not pressing them open. That I find really great. So the best way I find them is if you all put them all in the same direction, they'll butt up. They'll just naturally butt up to each other in the right way. So you can see here, I'm just going to press this to one side. And for you non-quilters that are more clothing, this is your hem actually would help too. You can stick this on there. So I was doing multiples. I just lay them all in the same direction. And then you can see that when I bring right sides together, they're naturally going to butt up. So one is pressed that way and this one is pressed that way. Ta-da! Okay, so now the next step is we would actually sew, poor cameraman. Woo. Okay. So we're just going to sew these two edges together and we go along. And I do the other side too. So what you end up with is this. So we have two sides sewn together. We have our front seam all clipped and our other seam all clipped. And then the next step is we're going to take our elastic. And yes, we carry 1/4 inch elastic. We carry in black and white. I've chosen black for this one. And this is your top of your mask. I'm going to slide the elastic in between here. Okay. And then we're going to sew. So you can just see I left a little bit out. And now I'm just going to make sure these are butting up here. And I'm going to sew along here. We want to be careful not to stretch that top because it is on a curve and bias. So I just lift my foot up with my lead lift, make sure that's flat. Okay, and I'm going to go around this curve like this. When I get closer, I'm going to stick this one in too. Okay, and you can see it there, and then I'm going to sew that in. Okay. You notice I'm pressing my heel of my foot to cut my thread, so I just tap it, and on my machine, I set it up for this project. I like to do that. I go to settings, which is this button here. I go to the sewing. Those are sewing stitches. I go to my foot pedal, and normally it's on needle up and down, which I really do like, But for this project, I pick my favorite and I select the scissors. So that means my heel is going to cut the scissors when I tap it. So for this project, that's how I have it set up. Okay. And oops, there we go. Okay. Now when I do the bottom here, what I want to make sure is when I have this elastic is nice and flat in there, I'm going to tuck it in, but I want to make sure that this part doesn't get twisted. So I'm just going to tuck it in like that. And I'm going to sew. And I'm going to sew past this seam. And again, I'm going to make sure my two seams here are butt up and flat. Okay. And then I'm going to stop just a little bit after that seam. And then I'm going to leave that opening there. And I'm going to make sure this one, again, is flat, not twisted. I'm going to keep it in that position. And I'm just going to sew that into place. I'm going to butt it right up to that seam. Okay. And I'm going to start about an inch away. Okay. And there's my opening to turn it inside out. Okay. So we'll just turn it inside out. Voila! And then I just tug on these a little bit to get them pulled out of the corner nicely. Then we're going to go over to the ironing board and iron this. I don't iron my elastic because if it has nylon in it, it will melt. So just depending on your elastic. So see how I roll this, like especially here it gets, I want to just roll that and make sure it's as flat as possible. And I'm going to iron that flat. Okay. And I'm going to iron that nice and flat. And that's so that my front isn't showing on the back and my back isn't showing on the front. And I continue that all the way around. And then here is your opening, and I'm just going to take this, make it nice, fold, keep that fold in there, and iron it too. And then my sides too, don't forget them. Okay, so we go over now and we sew. And we are going to top stitch the edge of this. This isn't done until it's top stitched. And for this, I love to use my number 10D foot. So for my machine, it has an option of differential feet if I like. So I do have the 10D. It is also a wider stitch, so it also has the glass, which the eyes, which tell it that it can do a wider stitch. So I'm just going to take my 97 off. I'm going to put on my 10D. Cut my differential feed. Don't really need it, but just in case. I'm going to tell my machine that I have my 10D on, so I just hit that. I select 10D. Okay. And then you can see it already on the screen. So it also, because it has those eyes, it knows I can move my needle over all the way more than 5mm stitch width. So I actually like it on 4. So I just moved it to the left. And then I run my mass seam along this edge. And that's what gives me that nice top stitch. So I will just finish it on this side. I've done all there. But I left this. nicely where it stopped. And you can see that I just keep that nice and lined up. I usually go backwards at the beginning, but I forgot. That's okay. Not overly concerned. This also, because you're sewing right over that elastic again too, so it's really in there securely. So I just let that bar run. I have my machine stopping with the needle in the down position so that when I get to the corner, I can easily pivot and continue on. And that is where I started, so I'm just gonna go back, quick reverse through stitches and cut. And there we go. I'll trim my threads off there. Said I lost my... So, cute fabric for those Aussie people in your life, which might be Mike, our cameraman. These are a few of the ones I've done. So you can see there is a pleat in these. So this one doesn't have a pleat, but I do like the pleat, and it does have the markings on here. So with the pleat, I find, I'm just going to show you, that when I put this on, they kind of stick out here a bit. So I really like the pleat. So when I do the top stitching, this is where I would mark the pleats. So I like to use my white chalk, and I would just take this, and I just line it up in the middle there, equal sides. I mark that, and then instead of going to the other side, I actually just use this one so they're in the same place. And then I'm gonna pin that together. So I put that on the outside down like that, and I match that up, and then I'm going to pin that. So when I go around and top stitch, it's going to put that pleat in. You could try it both ways to see if you like the pleat. I really do like the pleat. If you decide that you do like the pleat, you don't have to undo that top stitching. Just go back and top stitch the edges. Okay, so now I just start top stitching all the way around again, just like I did here, but with those pleats. So if I decide that I like the pleats, all I'm going to do is go back and pleat those up. So I'm just going to sew again over that. So these all have pleats. This is a black grunge with black lining inside, just for, you know, I have a lot of black clothes. This might be for when we're camping. Of course, this is for Halloween. You see how nice the pleats are there? Keeps it nice snug. I really like these. I don't find that they're closing in on me. I'm not constantly moving them up or down. I found when they were too large, I would keep doing this with my mouth. So I find once I get these on, they're just super nice. And you know, it's gonna be for a while. How about some more little ghosts for Halloween? Again, I'm wearing gray today, so this would be a nice one. A little more Halloween, or just stars, and then grunge. Like, what a perfect, solid's kind of boring. It's okay for the inside, but this is super nice. Wore that at Thanksgiving. This is for when maybe I'm wearing denim, blue day. And some grunge dots, and then a cute little plaid one. I like this one. And we're gonna be doing Christmas ones soon too. So I hope that was helpful. So come in and get a face mask template by Creative Grids, and elastic, and little scissors, ironing board pad, the best press, and a $7.90. Thanks everybody. Happy Sunday.